Okay, so in the last tutorial, we created a servlet class. We discussed about the callback methods of a servlet and the flow of a servlet. Everything we discussed, right? And we also wrote the HTML inside a servlet, the basic one only, and showed that this should come. But when we run the application, we saw that we haven't done the mapping of this URL to this servlet. So that is why it was not showing me this request. So for that mapping, we need to go to the web.xml file and we need to do mapping over here. Okay, so how mapping is done for a servlet? I'll just tell you. First, we write a servlet tag. Servlet is very important because if we talk about the Spring MVC architecture also, that also use the servlet in the backend as the technology to forward the flow in a web application. So in backend, the servlet is only required. That is just, you should know the flow of that servlet. Okay, in the servlet tag, we have first tag as servlet name. Let me give you login as a name. This is user defined. You can give any name. Next is we need to give servlet class. What's my class? I need to give com.tell comma, because wherever my servlet is residing, you can have multiple servlets. Dot servlet underscore class. Fine. This is done. Next comes the servlet mapping. The servlet mapping, we have two tags. One is servlet name, which will be same as the one we have given in the top, and then we have URL pattern. I'll just say any URL pattern, or you want to give it welcome. Okay, you can give that welcome URL pattern. Fine. So now for this login, I'll just simply write welcome over here. It will work. No need to write .html. Okay. Now let's see how it works. Run in server. You need to restart the server because you made changes in that web.xml file. Let me show Ajay 123. That is the password, suppose. Oh, welcome user Ajay. I got that dynamic page. So similarly, if I give Ravi, I'll be getting the Ravi specific page. So this is a dynamic web page is being generated by the servlet at the backend. Clear? How actually it is flowing? Let me just tell you about that. First, I run the application on web server. That was a basic URL. For basic URL, we have a welcome file, that is login.html. It goes to login.html. In the login.html, we have the username and password as a text box and a submit button. We enter the details and click on submit, the static page. Now the action is welcome. So another URL is being created. Just I showed you over here. We are creating another. I submit the form. I created the welcome. This is the URL being created. After the question mark, we are having the parameter, that is a gateway of HTTP get method is used by default in the form tag. So it's just showing all the parameters over here. I'll show you how you can write it post. Okay, so the URL is welcome.html. Again, it goes to web.xml and see for the welcome file or something. But no, it finds over there the servlet mapping, that if we get a basic URL and after that URL we get a welcome.html, then this servlet name with login should be called. So servlet name login is mapped to what? It's mapped to a class. So it goes to this class only, which URL is being mapped, and in this class it sees the service method, because for the request it needs to be called. Whenever the servlet mapping is done, at that point of time only servlet init and all is being called before only. I'll show you how the init is also called. Destroy we can't tell because that is need to be called after all the work is over. So here the service, it goes and it gets the request and the response. But in the request, what we are having both the fields, the username and the password which the user entered. These are the fields present in this. So we got that username over here and we print it, and for printing the HTML content we got the writer object and print the dynamic page to the user. So you can write it in a more complex way also for any building logic. You can call here another Java class, interact with database, whatever you want to do, you can do it from here. The only problem is here we're writing the business logic as well as the HTML content in this only. One class only. Here you can do the validation part also, like you get the name, so you can check if the names dot equal length this, then this should be done, this class should be called. After that, finally you can prepare your print writer out object. Yes, you can close this stream also if you want. In some ways we can close it. It's a good way of doing it. Okay, so now I was telling you this is how the servlet is generating that dynamic web page request. This is just about servlets. We are not left much with servlets. The first way is clear and how it's called. Next tutorials we'll be discussing about the another two ways, but the flow will remain same. That will not change. Clear? Okay, let's just study the init method also. I'll be just writing sysout statement for you to tell you when the init method is called. Init method is called. Let me close all this. Run on server. Notice carefully when this init method will be called. Sysout, it will be coming on console. Click the console. Since now just server has started up. Okay, nothing servlet lifecycle hasn't started. I was writing about servlet only. Ravi 1 2 3. Clear? I just clicked on submit form. When I clicked, another URL is created. Welcome. Then the URL is going to web.xml. Here it sees a servlet. So servlet will be created, compiled, then instantiated, and init will be called. So compiled we can't see, but when we click on submit, we got the init method. You can see that, and after that the service engine is called. But let me process the same servlet again, but with another username, Ajay. Service is calling, but init method is not being called because that is being called only and only once. I can write another name, say Vritika. Again, init is being not called. Clear? That is the way of init method being called only once. Okay, one more thing. Let's do that method as post. This is very simple. You can just simply write your method over here as post. So when we'll be running this application again, Ashish 1 2 3. I click on submit. I just get this welcome. I'm not getting my username and password in the URL. That is a post way. So it sends a HTTP post request to that, and then it can be handled. Clear? So this is the servlet first way, that is the implementing interface servlet and calling all the methods and generating a dynamic web pages request. In the next tutorial, we'll be studying about the another two ways of creating a servlet. That is by not implementing the interface, but by using some classes. But whatever other two ways we'll be writing, they have already implemented this basic interface. So it's a step-by-step process. We'll be starting it in the next tutorial.